Hello, I'm Lisa Jagona, and thank you so much for joining me again. In today's episode, join me as I offer a reflection on how defensiveness blocks our ability to live fully and offer a few questions that can help upgrade your protective armor. Stay tuned. I grew up on a farm and I loved running around barefooted. I loved climbing trees and sitting in fruit trees for hours. And I loved helping my grandmother find and carry firewood. I was very small. And even though I have worked with books and computers for many years now, my hands and feet are leathery. Not rough or tough, just not baby soft either. One day, a few years ago, as I was visiting my brother and his family, my oldest nephew, who was born and grew up in the city, sat next to me, took my hand, and with a mocking concern in his voice, asked, "Auntie, why are your hands so tough?" Now, I long ago accepted and fell in love with the fact that my hands are not baby soft. I love not having to worry about getting cuts or bruises from regular daily encounters. And so I simply replied to him saying, "It's my body's way of protecting me." Many people develop calluses on their hands. For example, farmers, carpenters, iron workers, even chefs. Their hands develop calluses because their daily experience exposes their hands to high temperatures, blunts, and blows that would otherwise rip through the baby soft skin that we're born with. Responding to the exposure of tough conditions and environments, the body responds and toughens the skin. Our bodies have miraculous, adaptive, protective abilities. Like farmers and others who work with their hands, many of us exist in environments that are tough on us, but emotionally and spiritually. Daily encounters cause emotional and spiritual hurt and harm and provoke fear because we somehow feel insecure. In an effort to protect ourselves against the emotional hurt, we assume defensive postures. We build tall defensive walls around ourselves, and from there, we either retreat inward or lash out attacking. Whether we withdraw or attack from behind our defensive walls, the result is usually something of the same. The people who come close to us grow tired, either from trying so hard to connect with us and being rejected, or being snapped at. We become somehow inaccessible. I want to offer that retreating and withdrawing from relationships, fearing emotional hurt, is like a person who wants to be a farmer without wanting to toughen their hands. It's true. Thanks to technological advances, these people who are farmers can use gloves to protect their hands. But the improvement that comes from such advancements is not the same as a farmer who decides not to engage in the activity of farming, which defines who they are as a human contributor. To be human is to be in relation. We simply do not exist in isolation. And so withdrawing from or fortifying ourselves to the point that we are unable to connect with people and have deep relationships with people is like a farmer who withdraws from the activity of farming. By definition, we are no longer living into our essence. Put differently, defensive tendencies that make it difficult or impossible for you to be in relationship do not serve your self-actualization, because defensiveness as a protective measure gets in the way of your ability to take ownership of your personal power and share in the joys of collective power. It does this by closing you off in at least 3 ways. First, it blocks your light from shining through to touch others, right? So your essence isn't able to connect and transcend that wall to connect with others, to reach others. This inability to connect and reach others actually impedes your ability to have impact and contribute as fully as you're actually able to. Then, in the third way, it blocks your ability to receive from others because their light cannot come through. You're inaccessible. So, to reach our full expression, we somehow need to equip ourselves with emotional gloves of sorts so that we can remain in relationship, because we cannot block ourselves off from connecting and being in relation without sacrificing something that is essential to who we are as a people, as human beings. Now, I want to emphasize that I take as a given that in the environment that you have been in or you currently are in, there are harmful, hurtful forces. There's no doubt in my mind about that. And for what it's worth, I really am sincerely sorry that people have not been able to be kinder and more caring towards you. And I wish it was different, which is part of what this work for me is about us getting to the point where we can see each other more clearly so that we can be kinder towards each other. So, despite and perhaps because we live in hard environments, I believe within us is something that allows us to protect ourselves emotionally and spiritually and permits room for us to grow and connect. This type of protection is supple, flexible, transparent, and yet durable. It's the self-preservation type of protection that water models and displays when it encounters a rock. Water doesn't try to push the rock out of the way. It doesn't avoid the rock necessarily. Instead, when water encounters a rock, it simply finds the path of least resistance. It either flows around, over, under, or all the above. The goal being to get past the rock, to keep on moving towards its journey to the ocean, right? So its vision and its purpose is much bigger, and it allows it to have momentum to keep moving forward despite the obstacles that are there. This supple, flexible, powerful, self-preserving capacity is so sustainable that we know that over time, water can and does overcome rock to create caves and magnificent valleys. Now, our bodies are made up of mostly water. I believe that within each one of us is a wisdom that can allow us to respond to whatever obstacles or threats we encounter in our journey in a similar way to how water responds to a rock. If you notice defensiveness blocking your relationships and preventing you from getting what you want and need from your relationships, allow me to offer a few reflection questions that can set you on the path to upgrade your protective armor, to be more flexible, to be more supple, to be more transparent, so that you can claim and effectively use your personal power and enjoy the sweetness of being in connection with other people. I recommend that you at least spend 15 minutes with this exercise to reflect on this each day and really think about one relationship at a time as you work through this. Because in all growth, it's really one step at a time. Start with one thing and then build on that. So we're going to start there. Grab a pen and some paper and jot down some notes. There's going to be quite a few questions presented for you to reflect on. So the first thing is to clarify what you want to feel, experience, and see in your relationships. Consider, what energy do you want to predominate in your relationship? What feelings do you want to experience most of the times when you're relating with this person? What experiences, activities do you want to share with this person? For this relationship to support you in affirming your personal power, what would that need to look like? What do you want out of this relationship? What do you need out of this relationship? And also thinking that it's a dance, you also have to be in relationship. What would it look like for you to support the other person so that they can also step into their power? So second is to get curious about how you contribute to the energy that resurfaces in the relationship. Relationships are a dance. And so there's this question of, why does defensiveness show up in this relationship? What about this relationship triggers something within you? What associations do you make between this relationship and something that has happened in the past? What is unresolved in this relationship or with this person? Now, I want to take a side note that sometimes defensiveness shows up because we are fearful about the future. For example, it can show up with our children, afraid about their future and knowing that the rocks and the boulders that they will encounter, like our adult fears, can become magnified and overwhelm us and impact the way we show up for and with them. We want so much to protect children that we can raise defenses against and around them. In this case, our defensiveness is actually misdirected. It's not our children that we need to defend against. What they need is love, support, guidance, accountability, consolation, and to know that whatever happens, they're not in it alone. So consider, where is your response misdirected and showing up as defensiveness? So is the source, are you defending against the source, or are you redirecting it to something or somebody else who isn't actually the source of the reason why you are raising that defensive wall? So third, claim your relationship power to develop effective response for whatever rocks you encounter. And this is about being very clear about what the triggers are and then starting to slowly develop different shifts in your responses. So the next time you feel and want and need to withdraw or lash out, I want to invite you to breathe deep, pause, and notice. Breathe into these moments to get curious, to identify how it shows up in your body first and what the specific trigger is. Really get curious about what is the sequence of events or a sequence of feelings, sensations that show up in order to get you there. Understand how defensiveness is activated within you and then figure out where you can interject. Right? So the breathing calms your nervous system, and then you're able to choose a response that is slightly different. You can choose to speak up, you can choose to interrupt, change the subject, you can walk away, you can delay, right? Not give a response right then, but choose to walk away and just catch your breath. You can choose to reject, right? So just because somebody says something doesn't mean that you need to take it on. You can let it just fall, just reject it and let it be unreceived, right? And just let it fall. And then also consider, is the person standing in front of you the one who has hurt you? Or are you protecting yourself against something that stands outside of the relationship that you have with the person who is in front of you? It's really important to identify and separate where our pain is coming from. Because too often, we bring pain into situations that do not warrant it. For example, if we are having difficulty at work, we can bring that frustration, anger, agitation into our homes and create an environment where we have anger, frustration within our homes, but that's not where the source of that anger, frustration, agitation came from, right? And so to be really aware of where's the source of my anger and defensiveness and fear, and then deal with it there. And here is precisely where you can say enough is enough and declare that you're not going to allow hurt to spread into other arenas of your life if that's not where the hurt is. So lastly, if the person did something, that did trigger you, right? If they actually did something, think about what boundary you can establish within yourself that can help you flow over, around, under, through the rock that you will encounter. So to close, I want to remind you that this series is called Own It, and it means all of it, the great, good, bad, and ugly. And it's not easy work. These exercises require repeated and persistent practice and repetition, and are rooted in a deep, deep faith that within you is a place of tremendous courage to be yourself, your best self. So let me know in the comments, how has defensiveness gotten in your way, and what are you ready to do about it? Look, I can't change your circumstances, but I know if you commit to do these exercises, you can build the resilience to withstand whatever storms come your way. And in the process, you will build yourself up to the point where your circumstances will in fact change. Please subscribe if you found this valuable, and if you know anybody who could benefit from stepping into their power, please share this forward. And as always, thank you so much in solidarity.